For a lot of ADHDers, childhood is where vigilance gets trained. And that's not a personality trait. That often is a compensation for their undiagnosed ADHD. For a lot of ADHD kids, praise isn't random and neither is acceptance. And it shows up in such specific moments when she's being helpful or considerate or easy to manage, when she remembers her homework, when she tidies up without being asked, when she looks after other kids, when she notices what the teacher needs before anyone else does. And that's when the feedback comes. You're such a good girl. You're so mature for your age. I wish I had more kids like you. But when her executive function drops for a moment, when she interrupts, talks too much, forgets the plan, misreads the moment, gets loud or silly at the wrong time, the responses around her shift: correction, side eyes, social withdrawal, adults speaking to her firmly, and she feels it immediately. And this is where gender does matter. Because as a mum of 3 kids, I have 2 boys and 1 girl. 1 boy and 1 girl really represent more of that ADHD internalizing pattern, and my other boy is more externalizing. So I do understand that boys definitely do this as well. I'm going to use she just for ease because a lot of us women presented like this as kids. So the same behaviors, being silly, interrupting, talking too much, forgetting things, being loud or silly, whatever it is, those same behaviors in boys are often more tolerated, even expected by adults, particularly at school. Rough play, talking over others, blurting things out, being impulsive, forgetting homework. Sometimes in friendships, boy on boy, when one boy is impulsive or silly, they just move on, even if one child has wrecked the game. Boys will rupture and repair socially very quickly without it costing them belonging necessarily. Let's say one kid keeps kicking the ball out at soccer, but the next break comes, he's still picked on the team. It is still hard for boys. I have 2 boys, I get it, but it is different when they're younger anyway. Girls do not get that same amount of grace. It is more about the moment, making a mistake, and then socially being outcast for the rest of the day. For girls, social acceptance is quieter and it is more conditional. It depends on timing, tone, emotional attunement. So when an ADHD girl misses a cue, interrupts, forgets something that mattered to the group, it doesn't get brushed off necessarily. It can create distance, especially if it's repeated over time, and friends could stop inviting her. Conversations go flat. Sometimes she's, and I'm air quoting, too much, a bit weird, hard work, annoying. And so she learns quickly, where does safety live? Approval comes from being useful. Belonging comes from being very careful. Connection depends on whether I'm disrupting the room or not, whether I'm being helpful. And she becomes that good girl when she remembers and quietly self-punishes herself when she doesn't, because the system has taught her exactly how fragile acceptance can be. So over time, even when school isn't there or other adults aren't there, she then begins to self-edit and internally monitor herself and, of course, what is created: vigilance. And this feeling of always being on, and the nervous system starts to get really tired real quick. Burnout, anxiety, depression. A lot of us ADHD mums started to feel like that very early on. I remember when I was first in therapy at 13 or 14, psychologists had only just discovered what depression was, and no one could understand how a child presented with it. But by adulthood, vigilance feels like a personality for a lot of us. But was it really our personality in the beginning? Or did we grow up and learn that? I would argue we grew up and learned that. Because by adolescence, vigilance isn't just something that we do, it's who we are. And ADHD girls don't just mistime jokes. They might jump in a half beat too early. They might talk over someone without meaning to. They might forget plans that mattered to the group. And one thing I know I did as a teenager over and over again is share a secret, because the impulse to connect with that person in that moment overrides the pause and understanding that I shouldn't share a secret. They send the text that they shouldn't send to the person that they shouldn't be seeking approval from, because in that moment, connection feels like relief, but then it circulates, doesn't it? Screenshots, whispers, the tone shift the next day. No one explains it to the ADHD girl, and they learn real fast. They learn to monitor themselves harder, to reread the messages before speaking, to drink because alcohol smooths edit, because at the social edges. It slows the monitoring. It makes the timing feel easier until it doesn't. And by the time adolescence ends, social ease isn't instinctive. It hasn't necessarily been learned, but it's been managed real tight by hypervigilance. So when something ruptures socially, let's say there's conflict within the group, she gets real good at smoothing things over. She apologizes first, she over-explains, she anticipates the reactions before they happen, and the belief settles in, quietly but real firmly, I'm responsible for keeping things okay between people. If we contrast a neurotypical teen for a moment, they might experiment, push boundaries, they might get annoyed with each other, but they recover quickly because it was a choice and they go back to what they were doing before. But an ADHD teen might learn that deviation from that, doing anything out of the ordinary, following an impulse costs more. And so the vigilance steps in really quickly. Lists, reminders, double checking. Competence becomes really important. And there's a lot of effort to stay invisible. So people might start saying, you're so mature for your age, you're so responsible, I wish I had more kids like you. But no one asks what that costs. So if we fast forward into early adulthood for a moment, this doesn't change the role, it locks it in because a really common pairing can come here. And of course, relationships present in all different ways. I'm going to say she because most people are ADHD mums, but those gender terms can be used interchangeably because often the dynamic's the same. She brings vigilance, he brings ease. Not because she prefers vigilance, but because she knows exactly what vigilance buys her. She learned early that being organized, helpful, emotionally attuned to others around her and one step ahead is what earns her acceptance. And that being the good girl, the reliable one, the thoughtful one, the one that keeps things steady and safe is what is going to get her accepted. So she stretches that role again. She remembers birthdays, tracks bills, notices when things are off, holds the emotional weather of the relationship and apologizes first. Not because she enjoys it, but because she knows what will happen when she doesn't. And this might look like control. I've definitely been called controlling many times, but it's about protection because vigilance buffers against anything that might hurt us. It protects self-worth in the short term anyway, but it actually really erodes that long term. Because again, if we contrast a neurotypical woman, she might forget something and she might shrug, whereas an ADHD mum might forget something and replay it for a few days. Because forgetting has not just meant forgetting once, it means disappointment, correction, distance, failure, shame.